If you want news and rumors that appeal, welcome to the Dusty Wheel.
Hey, welcome back to the Dusty Wheel.
If you want news and rumors that appeal, welcome to the Dusty Wheel.
Hey, welcome back to the Dusty Wheel.
Hey, welcome back to the Dusty Wheel. I'm your host, The Innkeeper, and this is our live call and talk show all about the Wheel of Time. Now, tonight you're here to talk about Marcus Rutherford and Perrin. But before we do that, let's cover a little bit of news out there until then we can bring our guests in and actually get going here. So first up, I want to remind everybody that I don't know if you've checked out our new feature called Watch Parties at the Dusty Wheel on Twitch. These are Wheel of Time inspired Amazon Twitch watch party live streams we'll be doing. We had a fun time just this last week. I want to say, was it even this week? It was Monday. We actually watched Dora the Explorer. That's right. We did a little test stream, and we happened to be the top watch party on Twitch in that moment. It was hilarious. We had, I think it was 110 of you with us that night. You guys are awesome for testing out the system with us. That was a blast. And if you want to be one of the first 500 people that are following us over on Twitch, go do that. We're going to give away some swag, raffle off some of those things for people that are following us. So yeah, find us over there. It's a blast. Our first official announcement will happen this upcoming Monday. So make sure you're there. We'll keep mentioning it through this channel. Don't worry about that. You won't miss it. And then I want to remind you that tomorrow we'll be dropping our interview that we did on Barside Chats with Margaret Weiss. We'll be posting a sneak peek here just on YouTube. It'll be a blast. You'll enjoy that. But yeah, just wait for that. I think it'll be out at noon tomorrow Eastern time. We can't wait for you to check it out. It ends in this really impactful story that she told. It was fantastic. So thanks to Margaret Weiss for her time and thoughtfulness. And just remember, this Sunday, we are going to be back with a debate. Yes, we're doing another Wheel of Time debate. It's going to be a blast. We have Sawana Sadai of the Weaves of the Wheel community, Katie Sadai, Andrew of the Black Tower podcast, and Elliot of Thread. They're going to be with us, and if you have never checked it out before, it's a lot of fun. Make sure you're here for that. Now, really quickly, I don't know if you saw today, but good old friend of the channel, John from What Up, he had a little news for us today. He broke some news. He got confirmation from a source that Guy Roberts, the artistic director and founder of the Prague Shakespeare Company, filmed scenes during Block 4 as part of a recurring role. John has some awesome theories about what that means. Make sure you go check out that link. It's in the description below. So yeah, go find that out. It's a lot of fun. It's just quick 10 minutes and it's a blast. And then our friends over at Watt Series actually threw out some news too. Yes, Lolita Chakrabarty, Marin Alvear in the show, they noticed a little detail here in an article that came out that says, as she went to Prague for a small role in a new fantasy series on Amazon, The Wheel of Time, which will become a larger one if and when it reaches its third season. So I love Watt's series and Omar's speculation here. What does that mean? I don't want to spoil anything for any of you out there, but why would Marin Alvear be in a season 3, and what does that mean for the timeline? That's a lot of fun, and hopefully we do get to a season 3. Now, our last piece of news before we jump into this was from Watt on Prime today. Whoever he is, who is running the Wheel of Time on Amazon Prime Twitter account, has now been named, taking that name from the suggestion from Bain and Chiad that they made today. And this, the handler of the Twitter of Time Amazon Prime account, will now be known as He Who Tweets with the Dawn. So I thought that was a lot of fun. Okay, but tonight you weren't here for that. You were here to talk all about Marcus Rutherford and Perrin. So before I introduce my guests, let's set the stage by learning a little bit more about Marcus. Born in 1995, Marcus grew up in Nottingham, England, and having fallen in love with drama at school at the age of 15, he began studying acting at the television workshop. Though after leaving for university at 19, Marcus felt like he had taken a step backwards. So he jumped into work on music videos and short films, obsessing with editing and music, which fatefully led him to create and post his own showreel on Spotlight. His editing skills came in handy, of which Marcus said the footage looked pretty nice. Others agreed with that assessment, especially one casting director who, after seeing his showreel, asked him to audition for the feature film Obey in 2016. Marcus earned that leading role, the first of a whirlwind next few years. Obey went on to win the Best Cinematography Award in the International Narrative Narrative Competition of the Tribeca Film Festival in 2018. And that same year, Marcus was nominated for Most Promising Newcomer at the British Independent Film Awards. Following his role in Obey, Marcus picked up a starring role in County Lines, initially a short film in 2017 that tackled the serious problem across the UK of traffickers recruiting vulnerable children to traffic drugs in rural areas. County Lines became another British Independent Film Award nominated feature film in 2020. Marcus followed his achievements with Obey and County Lines, starring in another short film, A Stitch in Time, in 2019. It was also in 2019 that Marcus told Your Cinema that he would like to do some more stuff in the UK. Though, he said, you never really know. An opportunity could come and you could jet off somewhere. Well, that opportunity did come. That same year, Marcus was cast as Perrin Aybara in the Wheel of Time television series, which, from all known news, is slated to premiere in 2021 on Amazon Prime. So with that introduction, let's discuss becoming Perrin. And to do that with me, let's bring our guest to the show. Welcome to the Dusty Wheel, LezbiNerdy and Corey Lansdell. How you both doing? Cheers.
Great.
Cheers to you both.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers. Oh,
So that was a large amount of news and introduction to get to this point, but thank you both for
Yeah.
being here.
yes. I'm
it's a
also
pleasure.
mug flexing, but nobody can see my mug.
So yeah, that's hilarious. Oh man, we need to get you a virtual Dusty Wheel mug. That's what needs to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That will be our first. I'm going to figure that out. That's awesome. So, if for those of you watching, if you've never watched one of our Becoming series, we've already talked all about Nynaeve. We've talked about Rand. We've talked about Egwene. And now we have an opportunity to talk about Perrin. And those have been a blast. Go check those out afterwards. But basically, the idea is we'd spend the next, whatever it is, 90 minutes talking about the merits of their careers. A lot was made when the cast was brought on as far as their looks and whether or not fans thought they looked the part. And we thought, why don't we spend some time talking about whether or not they can act the part? And that's been a lot of fun. So let's jump into that. Have either of you learned anything before we talk about Marcus's works? Have you learned anything about Marcus Rutherford that you wanted to share with our viewers?
Honestly, personally, not much more than you said. Not much else other than what you were saying in the intro about his career or his personal life.
Yeah, he hasn't.
Yeah, similar on my front as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's little out there right now. I did find a couple of interviews that he had done, very few, but one I think it was I want to say it was in 2019, and he mentioned his parents are social workers. He also mentioned loving acting for the nature of just how much it changes, when he he walks onto a set and it's all new people and it's a new story. He gets to travel, gets to go places, gets to try new things. He told a funny story just about how that's a lot different than his friends who are kind of at the same job every day and they see the same people. And he just loved that about. And that was the same time he made that comment that I brought up in the intro, which was, maybe I'll stick around the UK, but you never know what's going to happen, basically. So I thought that was such a great reaction, a great moment, because that was in 2019, which is when he was cast for the role. Yeah. So, okay. So outside of just Marcus, outside of his acting career, let's jump into, some of the stuff that he has done. And I think the most obvious place for us to begin would be Obey. For those of you that are watching, there's links to all of the works we'll be discussing today in the description of the video. You can go watch Obey. That's on Amazon Prime Video right now. It's available. It's a fantastic film. So I'm going to start there. LezbiNerdy, what did you see when you watched Obey about Marcus's capabilities as an actor?
I should have asked this before, but are we spoilers in this?
Yes. So that's a great question. For those that are watching, this will be a spoiler episode, and I'll try to throw up a little warning. This show does contain spoilers. I get that comment a lot on YouTube. People will say, why didn't you put up a banner? I guess I could be more specific, but this show will contain spoilers about Marcus's works. Yeah. And also about Perrin. Just expect spoilers at this point. You can't avoid it when you're talking about a subject that's becoming Perrin inherently has spoilers. So, so if those of you who are here that don't want to hear anything about his works, this is a good time to check out. But otherwise, jump into it. Like when it comes to Obey, feel free to kind of spoil anything about that plot and what you saw.
Well, Obey is a dark story, about somebody who has a lot happening in their life. I don't want to spoil it too much, quite honestly, because it's a great movie. And I was surprised when I watched it. I got into it and kind of forgot why I was watching it. I was watching it for the Dusty Wheel and I forgot that. I was just I'm just into this story. Yeah. Because it's a good story, but it's a heavy story. The thing I would say that I noticed, because I actually, as I said, I forgot that I was watching it for the Dusty Wheel, so I had to go back and kind of watch it again. So be I'm focusing on Marcus, not just what's happening. Is he plays somebody who is very internally, has a lot going on in his head. There's not he doesn't have a lot of lines. He's the main character. He doesn't have a lot of lines. Well, relatively to other roles that you would see in other movies, but there's a lot happening in his head, and he's very what would I say? He's very calm, or you can feel him repressing things, and then he explodes. He has this explosion of temper, an explosion of rage, which I just when I went back to watch, was I see Perrin in that. He's a slow, deliberate thinker, and then he just, spoilers, as we said, the wolf comes out. He's he explodes, and I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, it seems like his family dynamics are pretty tough in this show. With his dynamics with his mother, it begins off that way. You immediately get a feel for what that's going to be like in the first kind of initial scenes when he gets back to his house. So that in and of itself already sets the stage for him. And this was if I remember correctly from the research I did, this is his first role. And it's a lead role for what ends up becoming an award-winning film, and independent film. It's really fantastic that he had this opportunity, because it's almost like I don't know if, again, it's one of those, I don't know if he is that kind of person, like he can just channel that really easily or what it is, but he did. He channeled that kind of pensive. There's a tension to all of his movements that is just... Yes,
sorry, that's a good way to put it. Attention to his movements, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. Something you brought up, I don't want to steal anything you're about to say, Corey, but...
no, go ahead.
That initial scene of Obey, he actually has this moment where he's behind all of his friends, and you almost miss him, even though he's the tallest person, which I thought was really interesting, at least for me, the first... half a minute, I saw everybody else, and then I saw him, and it's really the way that they did that. Now, obviously, he's behind them, but he's tall and he's a big guy. So the fact that they were able to kind of pull that off, where I was like, oh, who's that back there? Kind of added to that internal conflict, kind of, someone with a heaviness to his character. So anyways, Corey, what did you notice from Obey that you thought was interesting?
Yeah, one of the things that really stuck out to me in the film was, and I'll try not to spoil too much about it either. I really enjoyed it as well, but with his character in particular, he's this person in transition, right? Like he's kind of going through, he's coming from, there's even a scene where he's like sitting down on the floor of his bedroom and he's playing with this little race car track.
I was going to mention that scene. Yes.
Zipping these cars around while there's all this stuff going on in his life. And I'm like, what? It just felt, I was like, he reminds me of like a teenage boy who's sort of like wrestling with coming to grips with the fact that he's growing up, right? And life is changing, and he's going through all these difficult situations. And I thought that was interesting to me in relationship to Perrin, because I feel like he carried that really well. Like he sort of there, like you talked about the tension of his movements. There's also a tension between the worlds that he's occupying, where he's like partly a kid, partly, a son of this troubled family, partly trying to be the cool guy and going out and doing the cool things, breaking windows and partying and all those things. And he's trying to figure out all those pieces.
Yeah.
And that to me was really interesting. And it felt natural. Like all those pieces felt like part of the same person. I didn't feel like he was weird. Like I didn't feel like he was schizophrenic or weird. It was like, no, this feels like this guy, and he's going through these challenges emotionally and mentally. And I thought that was really came through in his performance and through the acting that he put into it. It was really quite moving. And like you said, Lesbi, like just pulled me in. Like I just was like kind of sort of like forgot what I was doing too. And really kind of my palms were sweating while I was watching it at times, and like just really uncomfortable situations that he ended up in. And you felt that tension. So,
well, and one thing that was interesting to me, there was a moment, I don't know if you remember this one, where he's sitting on the couch with like his mother's boyfriend, I guess at the time. And he was watching, about the riots or about the protests that were going on at the time. And then the boyfriend comes in and just changed the channel.
Yeah.
And there's this moment where he tells him that he was watching that, and the boyfriend kind of looks at him, and just the way he handled that. It was, again, for this to be his first sojourn, like, now that he went to acting school, that's not, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't like he'd never acted before or anything like that. But for this to be his first feature film, this lead role moment, he really channeled, a lot of believability into that kind of, I think there was that aspect to it. I was surprised how quickly I forgot that I, was researching this versus just watching it to see how he'd react. Anything else stand out to you, LezbiNerdy, about the role? Any kind of highlights from particular scenes that really spoke to his capabilities as an actor?
The scene I was going to mention is the one that Corey talked about, with him sitting in the room with the race car. Like that one, it hit me. Like I actually kind of teared up watching it, because I could see him, the way I saw it is him trying to move from innocence into like, am I going to be this or am I going to be that? And having to make a choice in his mind. And I literally teared up, like on my sofa, just watching that moment. The other thing I would say about him, and I think I mean, this isn't just to this particular role. He has an incredibly expressive face, which I think is amazing for Perrin, but just for this role in Obey. As I said, he's very internal. So that moment you're talking about, Matt, where he's on the couch and his mom's boyfriend just changes the channel, you see it. Even like he doesn't really do anything, but you see his reaction. And it's in his face. He doesn't have to do much, but something about his, I mean, I can't do it because I'm emoji, but like, he's not Botoxed or anything. Like it's like the little tiny micro expressions. I don't know, but you see what's happening in his head, even if he isn't doing that much externally. It's just so expressive.
And I love that, right? Like in relationship, just to that movie, but in relationship to what role he's going to be playing. And we've talked about, I think I talked last time I was with you, Matt, about that aspect of Perrin, like just that internal dialogue that goes on in the character, right? And how are they going to do that? Right. But it's like, I feel like that gave me indication that they know how they're going to do it.
Yeah, yeah. And what's also for those of you that are watching, I saw a comment. It looks like I think Delusion answered it in chat. Yeah, you can find Obey on Amazon Prime. I'm going to throw up on the screen as we're talking just a couple scenes that I thought were really interesting that Taylor threw together for us, and so that those watching can kind of see some of these kind of cut scenes. But yeah, there's one thing I wanted to say about his interactions with his friends. Mm-hmm. As much as he seemed like he understood kind of why they were upset and why he maybe was still feeling and dealing with that same thing, he still kind of at least I took this. There was an outsider. I don't know if outsider is the right word. It's like he wasn't sure where he belonged,
Right.
And so that to me really stood out. Like there was one moment where his friends were going to go rush back in, and he didn't like what they were about to go do. Yeah. And you could see kind of like the loyalty aspect. And so, there was an outsider, not sure where he belonged. The loyalty was that was some of the things I was looking for in how he did this. So yeah, that I thought was really, really interesting. Anything else that kind of struck you both? Did you ever capture when you were watching? Did you feel like, oh, this is someone who's still kind of learning his craft? Did that come across to you at all, or were the entire time were you kind of sold with his performance?
Oh, you mean like Marcus learning?
Just Marcus. Yeah.
I thought you were talking the character. Martin. No,
yeah.
I was sold on his performance. Yeah.
He felt very grounded to me. And it was interesting. Like you kind of, like you said earlier, Matt, you don't know if that's kind of the way he is as a person or whatever. I saw one of the interviews. I did watch an interview with him quite a while ago before we had this show was lined up to do. I kind of forget the nuances of it, but what I pulled from that interview in relationship to this character is that the character he played in this movie isn't really like him. Like he seemed very like genteel and soft spoken and was smiling a lot and like very kind of like personable. Yeah. Whereas in Obey, he feels kind of his interpersonal skills are kind of stilted a little bit and he struggles to communicate well with people. And like there's a lot of nuance to that character that to me took a lot of ability in his craft to carry through. It's
his interview. Like I think I brought it up at the beginning where he talked about kind of starting to learn editing and got into music videos and stuff like that. You can start to see some of his personality, his kind of day to day come across. So it was really cool to see the difference between those. If you're interested in the interview that I'm talking about, I put a link of that in the description. You can go find it. There's all sorts of links here to the excellent channels. LezbiNerdy runs a YouTube channel. It's amazing. Everyone loves it. I love it. And so please go check her YouTube channel out after this. You can check it out now. That's fine too. But
no, don't do that.
I'm just saying.
I'm going, guys.
No, Corey.
And then, of course, Corey is an amazing artist. We're actually going to be doing the actual picking of the person who's going to get the print that he did a giveaway on Instagram here probably in about 20 minutes. So if you're one of them, I guess there's between 1 and 170. So hopefully your name is the one that's chosen or the number that's chosen. So, but we'll do that here shortly. But you can find Corey on Third Age Art on Instagram. He has a project this year. You're trying to do 100 portraits. Is that your project this year?
So, yes.
Wow.
You're 16 in. Right?
Yeah, 16 completed and a number on the go right now. So.
Yeah. They're a lot of fun. A lot of fun having to do with the cast and some. I don't know if you're fan casting some of them. Some of it's the cast, some of it's fan casting. And some of it will be more like I'll be doing some stuff from the Cosmere as well. And cool. There will probably be the odd other piece thrown in there. There's a couple from I'm part of a Dungeons and Dragons podcast right now with Wave the Heron and Suana from Weaves of the Wheel. And go follow all the stuff Corey and Jenny here, LezbiNerdy, are doing. And I wanted to make sure that if you are here for the first time, or you happen to be still watching us here, we're going to jump into the next movie that Marcus Rutherford did. But please do like this video so other fans can find us while we're live here and afterwards. And also make sure if you're not subscribed and you enjoy live Wheel of Time content, subscribe. Be part of the Dusty Wheel here. It's a lot of fun, I think.
Subscribe. Also, Man Fear. You should subscribe.
Yeah.
We don't need to see. I don't think we should devolve into Man Fear. No,
Always plugging Man Fear.
Yeah, this is the epic event that's on the horizon.
How much is Nameless paying all you guys? That's all I gotta say. Nameless must be paying everybody at this point. So let's get away from Man Fear and back to Marcus. How about that?
That's one I should add that to my list. My list of portraits.
Yes, Corey. Yes.
Oh my gosh, no. Oh, why did I even... Jenny. Okay, so let's jump back into the show
No,
here.
I'm never coming back on the Dusty Wheel.
I can't believe you just reached out to... Oh, okay. I'm going to live this down. Okay, so A Stitch in Time. Let's jump to A Stitch in Time. It actually is it's a short film. You can go watch that. It's like 12 minutes long. You can find A Stitch in Time. I believe the link is also in the description. It's a really interesting... I actually watched it twice because I wanted to watch it that first time and just try to kind of grasp all the nuance of what was going on. I don't think I understood everything until the second time I watched it. And I don't know if I understood everything at that point, but it's one of those, like, it makes you think, and you have to kind of catch each detail because they're definitely spending time with the nuance of such a short film and trying to communicate a lot. So he plays a character named Tony in this one. And maybe start us off here, Corey. What about A Stitch in Time did you find interesting or compelling about Marcus's performance?
I thought he handled the sort of odd supernatural component of stuff that was going on in that short was quite interesting to me. And his sort of reaction to those situations that he was finding himself in and sort of processing what the heck is going on while the story was kind of playing out. That was kind of neat. And I thought he did a good job of sort of like playing off of the imagined, or I don't know, the ghost or whatever it was that was there with him, the future, the time traveler. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. You're not sure. Right?
That interaction and that sort of, again, like sort of those wheels turning and the internal sort of like wrestling in the middle of a situation was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I think the internal wheels spinning or turning, I think both these performances have that a lot, and he pulls that off, in my opinion. Yeah, LezbiNerdy, anything to add there as far as A Stitch in Time? What did you notice?
Yeah, his face, it's just so expressive. Like when you have a short film like that, you can either be very overt with your narrative and dialogue to try and explain what's happening, or you can rely on the actors to communicate what's happening through their acting ability. And they were able to rely on Marcus's because he does have this, as I just said, he has such an expressive face. So those wheels turning, you can see him figuring it out and putting pieces together, and then see him making decisions without saying, oh, well, okay, based on what I have just seen, I am now going to decide to do, like, it's all happening inside, but he is showing it outside. I don't know. His face just amazes me. It's so expressive. It's so communicative.
Now, this sounds kind of weird, but his height, to me at least, he fills a room, but somehow sometimes can make himself feel kind of so small. It's such an interesting, and I don't know if it's just the way he articulates his shoulders and the way he kind of bends his head down. You know, I don't know what it is, but he is extremely just tall and a big guy. But yeah, there's something about it in both of these films that he does it, and he does it in this one too. He kind of like just kind of crouches into,
he folds in on himself.
Yeah, and it's very. Yeah, there's something about it that it's not imposing at all, right? You almost kind of, as in when he does that, you kind of feel for him. You lean in towards him, like what's going on. I kind of want to know what struggle this person is going through. So yeah,
he's got a vulnerability to him.
Yeah, maybe
vulnerability, even with his size. You want to take care of him.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
Totally. Yeah, and that's great. Like that, I think that will carry so well with the role that he's going to be playing in the Wheel of Time. Like, yeah, it's I can see the casting crew did a good job because I can see how these performances and the nuances in them will carry through over into Perrin.
Yeah,
very, very well.
Yeah, there's definitely kind of that comparison. And for those of you who are watching, we're going to do that comparison here shortly, which is talk about Perrin. And then we'll open the call lines, and you can all give us a call here. Like I said, we'll open the call lines probably another 15, 20 minutes. So, but yeah, those comparisons are going to be really fun to do here to finish off the show. Anything else?
Sorry, Matt.
Yeah.
Can I mention one more thing about that short film? I really liked so that character. You could tell from the audio clip at the start and everything. You kind of got an idea of the scenario that this character was in and sort of what had been going on. You get a feel that maybe, I don't know if he's rough and tumble or just was in the wrong place at the wrong time, like kind of living a lifestyle that's maybe risky or whatever. But one of the things that came through this performance too for me was like there's that vulnerability, but there's moments in this piece where there's a bit of aggression there, and like on the edge of like violent aggression, right? Which makes him scary, right? Like he has the capacity to kind of come across as like kind of shrinking inside him from that vulnerability, but there's also this like, I don't know, I guess maybe it's because of his physical presence and stuff. There's this imposing sort of like on the edge of like dangerous violence. You know what I mean? Which is like really cool. And like I was like, oh man, it makes it for a very dynamic performance and a person who can perform in very dynamic ways. Which I appreciated that about this and you kind of get that like the whole story is just about this sort of pointed decision, right? And you see those tipping points either way. So
I think that's one Stitch in Time kind of has that about it, and so does again Obey. Both of these have that moment where he's making decisions. He's not necessarily quite comfortable with the decisions he might be making, but he's on the edge of making a decision, and that the tension is real, and he does that well. So I can imagine the casting directors seeing both these performances and immediately saying like, I'm sure whatever his audition tape came in, that was part of it too. But I'm sure they looked him up and saw other things that he was part of and could see the same kinds of things I would imagine that we're seeing, maybe with more nuance because they do it every day and we're kind of fans just watching the show. But absolutely. I saw that too. Jenny, you seemed like you were going to say something. Is there something that you wanted to say along with that?
Oh, well, I was going to say, I felt in watching Stitch in Time is the one that had me thinking about Perrin the most. I saw a lot of Perrin in that of, a lot of times in Perrin's mind, you hear him saying like, I'm slower. I have to think and figure this out. Yeah. And in A Stitch in Time, that was like, you could see him. I mean, he wasn't saying I'm slower, but you could see him trying to figure it out in his facial expressions. And I really pulled that out. But what Corey was saying actually superseded what I wanted to say. It's just barely under the surface, like that anger, that temper. It's just barely under the surface, and you can see him holding it down. And again, I feel Perrin in that as well. So,
if I remember correctly, I thought Obey was in 2016. I think A Stitch in Time, I want to say, was in 2017. It might have been a little bit later.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I can't remember the years.
It might have been. Yeah, maybe they finished filming. No, because then County Lines came after that, I believe. And County Lines, for those of you that are watching, it wasn't available to me. I couldn't watch it. I don't know if either of you had a chance to see County Lines. That one is supposed to be a really, really great performance too. Another award-winning or award-nominated short film that turned into a feature film. So I believe it started off as a short film. He spoke about that in this interview where it was just a short film, and then afterwards they invited him to be part of the entire the feature film because there was people loved the short film, and so that has come out. I think in 2020 it came out. So what's interesting about some of these performances we've seen so far, Obey and A Stitch in Time, they're a little bit older performances. Not that means that much, but it'll be interesting for me to see how much he has grown. I know it's not a ton of years, but each performance, I'm assuming, gets better and gets better, just more experience. So, so for those of you that can see County Lines, I think I tried. Maybe I should have used the whole VPN trick or something. I don't know. I tried to watch that one. I also tried to watch the Bulletproof TV series. He's in a couple episodes. Did either of you have a chance to see that one?
I saw it,
yeah, you did. So, LezbiNerdy, why don't you give us your impression of was he in much of that? Is it worth fans going and checking out? I guess that's the question.
His part in Bulletproof is very small. He's got a few lines, and he's a very tangential character, but he's in a few episodes. He's a recurring character. I will say the difference between him in Bulletproof and Obey and A Stitch in Time is, like, as Corey was saying, both of you were saying, like he has this vulnerability to himself in those roles where he seems smaller than he is. In Bulletproof, he seems bigger. He has a presence. Like some of the people I see in chat were actually on Discord when I was watching, because I was taking screen grabs and saying like, he's a big boy. Like, look how big he is, because he just would be head and shoulders, and literally head and shoulders above other people, and would stand over people to intimidate them. Like he just had a presence.
Okay, so that's So if you can get access, another one that I tried to get access to, I think it's in the UK. I tried to go through Amazon.com in the UK, but apparently I'm not cool enough because I don't have an address out there. So I maybe I should have reached out to some of my friends out there to help me get through to see it. But yeah, so
you can actually get. Sorry, I got it through. I got Amazon Prime, and then you can get a 30-day trial. I think it's Stack or something like that, which gives you access to different shows that you wouldn't normally have access to. So I had like a 30-day trial of that. Along, like I have to pay for Amazon Prime, but you can get like a free trial of certain programming. So that's how I got access to it. So
awesome. Yeah. So if you're watching this and you're interested in seeing it, and maybe you didn't have access to it before, try that methodology. If you want to see kind of him really using his size to show that he can kind of impose himself in that kind of way. So that's interesting. I didn't get to see that one. I did see this last one here that we had listed here, Shakespeare and Hathaway, Private Investigators, season 1. He's in episode 8, plays a character named Lee in this one. Did you check out that one, Corey? Did you end up seeing that one?
I did, yeah. I think wasn't it episode 10?
I was going to say it was episode 10.
Because is it episode 10?
Okay. I watched 2 episodes. I watched all of 8 going, where is he?
Sorry. Yeah. Did I send you the wrong episode?
No, I think it was episode 10, Ill Fate by Moonlight or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyways, it's, he was much more, like before the call we were chatting, and I love the way that LezbiNerdy put it, was sort of like, I think it was you put it that way, like the Two Rivers pair. Like before,
he's the Two Rivers Perrin in this
early,
one.
I should actually qualify that early Two Rivers Perrin.
Early to
not Trolloc beheading Perrin.
Exactly.
Early. By the way, and for everyone that's watching, remember spoilers through the series.
Sorry,
we warned you at the beginning it was going to happen. Yeah. So and we're going to talk about Perrin here shortly. So more of that kind of
a smaller role again, but more of a happy-go-lucky guy, seemingly kind of just like a regular dude who kind of shows up to work late and ends up in situations and in places where he just ends up there, and people kind of like. His life is impacted by the choices of other people, and he's kind of just having to figure out what's going on around him. So, it was kind of like, felt very, very, I guess, convincing as like a commonplace guy in a town. I don't know. I don't know what else to say about it.
I don't know if the word is it. It's not innocent's probably the wrong word there, but just kind of like I don't know the right word, but yeah. In a small town, like from basically it kind of seemed like from a small town, just kind of
working class guy,
just working class dude, and it was believable too. So not much. I didn't watch it thinking this performance has told me a lot of how he might in the future embody Perrin, but it was believable in that sense of he could play that kind of role. So for those of you that watched, obviously we've really narrowed this down to Obey and A Stitch in Time, where we had a lot of experience, and then Bulletproof. That if you want kind of a different view of him, or check out the Shakespeare and Hathaway if you want kind of a early Mansfield version of Perrin, you might get in the show. So
he gets like interviewed at one part in that movie. They're like grilling him, like questioning him about stuff, and I kind of felt it sort of was like, to me, like kind of a hint into what it would be like to see Perrin like getting berated by the women's circle after Matt did something, and he's like, what? Hey.
Leafcast brother Dan just said, but how are his shoulders? It's funny. We know he's been, people remarked about that, when he was cast, and then you saw pictures people posted, or that others posted, maybe it's the cast or he did. And he was certainly in the gym, so I'm imagining his shoulders are going to be pretty imposing.
I mean, that's the thing. Like these, and you said, like you were saying about him growing over the past few years, like as an actor, but also physically, right? Like he's a younger guy, but really tall, and it's like, and doesn't look like like tall, spindly like me, but tall, kind of like, and like a bigger frame. And once you start putting some bulk on that frame, that's going to be scary. And you can see in some of the pictures that, yeah, he's done that. You think he's done the work.
Yeah, for sure. So if you are here watching this with us, please make sure to like this video while you're here. Again, it helps other fans that might be hanging around come watch us, and as we discuss Marcus and now Perrin. But before we jump to Perrin, and before we also kind of open the call lines and get people's opinions about Perrin and what they think are his strengths and weaknesses, let's do the giveaway. Let's do this. So Corey ran this giveaway for the print. Do you want to show everybody that print here, Corey?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Corey drew this specifically to give away this print here tonight. And if you're just watching this or hearing about this for the first time, I'm sorry, you can't be part of it. So you have had to have gone to his Instagram page over the last week and filled out and followed all the rules that he set. So we're going to throw this up. Taylor's going to throw the spinner here. Like I said, it's between 1 and 170, and I think Corey has the list of individuals. So let's do this. Let's spin this wheel. Go ahead, Taylor. What's your guess here? Numbers. I'm gonna say 67. That's my guess. Taylor said 45. Taylor's back there with the 45. I'm at 67.
Oh, it's taking all of my willpower not to say it, but I'm going to say it. 69.
No, the winner is 41. Congratulations, number 41. Now we're going to find out from Corey who is number 41.
Let's see here. At Sir_Matthew.
At Sir Matthew. Is that an Instagram? At Sir Matthew on Instagram has won the Young Bull print. I'm sure Corey will reach out to you if you happen to be watching. Congratulations. I'm sure Corey will reach out to Sir Matthew here after the show and figure that out. So congratulations. That's awesome.
Congratulations.
That's awesome. Again, these are fun. I really appreciate you putting together that print for tonight. And if you happen to be watching this later, please go, like I said, follow my guests. Fantastic content creators out there, and now great friends over these last 18 months. It's been a pleasure to get to know all of you. So, okay, so Perrin. Let's get into it. Let's talk about Perrin. We'll spend a couple minutes here, 5 or 10 minutes, talking about our thoughts on Perrin. Then, like I said, we'll open the call lines and have you give us a call because this is a live call and talk show. So let's jump to Perrin here, and let's get your impressions when it comes to Perrin Aybara. What do you think of LezbiNerdy? Like, what are the key components to Perrin Aybara?
Well, he's a very internal person. I think he has pretty low confidence, low self-esteem. He doesn't trust himself very much, which, I mean, as you see through the books, he with the wolves, for example, he accepts and rejects. He doesn't trust his own gut. At the beginning, he learns to trust his gut as the story goes on. I think one of the big issues that he has is communication. Because he is so internal, he'll think things and come to a conclusion in his mind and then not say them to anybody. And then that can cause problems because he's perfectly clear in what he thinks and hasn't communicated that to other people, and then is frustrated when they don't understand what he's thought because he hasn't told them. I think he is, well, all of our characters, they're very loyal. He's very loyal. He's very protective of everyone. It's very specifically, of course, Fail. He is one of the characters who, there's a few moments every single time I reread, every single time I cry, and he's one of them. With the moment in, like this, as you said, Corey, you had to say early Two Rivers, because there is a moment in the Two Rivers that is gut wrenching with him, where he loses his family, and he's very tragic. What I should have said before is one of the interesting things. When I saw the cast, I was very excited about the whole cast. Marcus was the only one who immediately took over my headcanon. Like, immediately. Now, when I think of Perrin, I think of him, and I haven't even seen him do anything yet with the role. But it was something in his eyes. They looked like he had suffered trauma. And that was, like, that's Perrin in my mind. Perrin is someone who has suffered a lot of trauma. Interesting.
I'm gonna put that in there. I saw Miss Sarah James say cautious you know,
Mm.
probably because of all those reasons. I'm kind of curious for people that are in chat here with us, you know, are you, have you been, you know, when it comes to seeing the cast, are the cast becoming the characters for you, you know, in your thoughts when you read the books? So thumbs up if Marcus has become Perrin in your mind yet, or thumbs down if it still hasn't made that connection just yet. I'm kind of curious. What about you, Corey, when it comes to Perrin? What else would you add to that list?
Oh, I mean, I feel like you covered a lot. No, that's great. You did it. You did a great roundup. I think one of the things that is interesting about him, like just his character, is that he walks the line between worlds.
Mhm.
And there's these two aspects to his existence that start to take shape as the books go on, right? And he's one of the few characters that happens to, in really rich, deep ways. You know what I mean? And so that is an interesting thing because he'll have to, like, Perrin has to sort of, it's kind of similar to the girls with the dream walking and stuff, right? There's the world that they live in, and then there's that world, and they kind of live outside of the bounds of what everybody else is going through. And there's sort of this break between them and the others in a way.
Yeah.
Right? It's kind of like they have this inside knowledge, like inside baseball or whatever, that nobody else kind of has. And Perrin has a similar thing going on, which is really fascinating. Like I love the Lord Luke stuff that goes on through his storyline. And, you know, he's like really suspicious of this guy, and he's like trying to make connections. Is that Slayer? Like, what's going on? I don't know what's happening, right? And everybody else is just in love with this guy, right? But Perrin's like suspicious, and everybody's like, what is wrong with you? Can't you see how good this guy is, right? But he's like juggling all these components, right? Which is kind of like harkens back to why I think his performance in Obey is like so telling of kind of what we might see some of those aspects coming through in his performance for Perrin. So that to me is very fascinating, and I think it'll be really interesting to see how Marcus carries that.
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, let me just quickly cut in here. If you happen to be watching us on Twitter and Facebook, hopefully you've enjoyed this first half of the show. If you want to come give us a call, let us know what you think about Perrin. We're going to be talking about maybe what some fans think are his weaknesses. And we'd love to hear from you. And then we're going to talk about how we think that Marcus, from everything we've seen, and Perrin will kind of merge as individuals. Where are we going to see some strengths come in? And do we see any kind of places where Marcus is going to have to, you know, push to really kind of bring something out in Perrin? That'll be an interesting part of the conversation. So yeah, thank you again for those of you on Twitter or Facebook. Come see us over at the Dusty Wheel on YouTube, where we'll continue this conversation. All of you have brought up some really great parts of Perrin, and I think it is that it's interesting that protectiveness about him that really strikes me the most. You know, almost like he believes that with that size comes that responsibility. You know, like he needs to be that. He should be that person, right? People expect it of him. But again, I love what you said, Jenny, about that. He doesn't really trust his ability to do that in the way that maybe people expect him to be able to do that. And that kind of seems for me that kind of drives that internal conflict eventually between the whole axe and the hammer side of how can I be the protector that other people are expecting me to be when I don't feel like I want to protect them that way. Like that's not who I want to be in life, not the way that people kind of expect the wolf to come out, if you will. So yeah, those things I think are really key to him. And that wolf component that's the part to me that it has to be the most interesting of his later, obviously the building arc for him as it goes in the show. But yeah, what do you think are Perrin's then? Let me go to you, Corey. What are Perrin's weaknesses then? You know, what are the what are the criticisms maybe fans have that you've heard about Perrin? He might be if he's your favorite. Have you heard people say things about Perrin that also
for
might
sure.
be, yeah, like what are those things?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots. There's a lot of people. The things that I've heard are for example, they often center around Fail and like the waste of the amount of time that he spends hunting for her and trying to track her down, and like just and maybe that's a criticism of Perrin in that he sort of gets kind of hyper focused. He gets single-minded at times, right? And I kind of think it is like people really dislike that about the storyline about him really chasing down Fail. That's like one of the biggest things that you will hear people complain about. I personally actually really like their relationship, and I like the journey, the way it's written that he goes through. And I kind of think of it from the position of a craftsperson, right? So he's in his craft is blacksmithing, and he sometimes touches on that through the writing. And in order to craft something well in blacksmithing, you would have to be very hyper focused on the work that you're doing while you're doing it, right? And it's not done until it's done, right? And so there's this aspect to Perrin's character that's tied into the deeper nuances of him, and that come through that, and the craft of being a blacksmith is part of who he is. And it's kind of like, in that case, because I feel like the two rivers becoming like the leader and the Lord and all that stuff there was sort of thrown upon him, and he tried to embrace that and do it the best he could, and kind of fumbled his way through. But rescuing Fail and doing all that stuff was very self-directed.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. You know? I like you bringing in the craft side of this, because because I just saw a comment saying it takes him 12 books to accept his role from Daniel. But for him, that's not 12 books, right? That's not. He wasn't the fan who read it over years. You know what I mean? Like, he's just a character in the book, and we're talking a couple years, like at the most, right? Like a year and a half to accept his role is not like a crazy amount of time. Now, I know he's a character being written by an author in that way, so maybe we blame Robert Jordan because we feel like, as a reader, his arc to accepting his role, it takes a lot of time. But go ahead. Yeah, Jenny, go ahead.
I was going to say, I haven't had a new revelation or a new thought about that I wish I could take credit for, but I can't. I interviewed, I got a chance to talk to the boys from the Cool Story podcast, which you guys, like, you should watch it or listen to it. It's a great podcast. But we were talking about queer coding in the books. And queer coding, for those of you who don't know, is basically just when stories talk about gay queer issues without being explicit, like we are telling a metaphor about homosexuality. No, it's just discussing that. And one of the hosts of the Cool Story podcast mentioned Perrin and his acceptance of the wolves. And it's the one thing about Perrin's storyline that I personally was frustrated with so much when reading. It's just, the wolves are cool, dude. Just accept the wolves. Just accept the wolves. And when he brought this up as like, it's like when you realize that you're gay and you're not really sure, you don't want to accept. I had to step back and be like, okay, I mean, this is whatever. I came out when I was 11. I came out again when I was 16, came out again when I was 19, came out again when I was 25. Like, I kept going back in the closet. It's accepting something about yourself that is different and weird is not easy. It's something that makes you separate from everybody else. It takes time, and it gave me a compassion for that part of Perrin's storyline that I had been frustrated with for decades. Suddenly was like, okay.
Well, I do like that Jordan doesn't, because that's a great example. I like that Jordan did not take, because I'm sure he heard that ever since, like, fans have been sending him notes about his books since the early 90s. And I'm sure that he was like, for some people it takes time, and I'm not going to rush a character because it bothers you as the reader. Like, it's great that you're enjoying the books, but I have an arc and I have an idea behind this character, and I want to include this personality in these and have you understand and empathize with this personality, like you brought up, LezbiNerdy, this. And because a lot of people have gone through that particular kind of concept in their life, and like you said, are still going through it, right? Yeah. Not really sure how to come to that acceptance, or having come to it and then letting it go, and then coming to it again, trying to figure out their way forward. So Perrin definitely has that. I understand. I'm watching chat. It bothers the reader because you're just like, I just get on with it. Can we just get to the end kind of piece of that? So there's something to be said for that, which is that it does seem purposeful. And so at least for me, when I'm reading, when I finally accept that it's something purposeful from the author's standpoint, then I can get over my kind of like, okay, every character doesn't have to do it at the speed that I want them to do it. What can I take from this? I try to take a step back. So, by the way, as we're talking about this, I want to tell everybody that this obviously is a live call and talk show. If you've never been or ever called in before, give us a call if you want to talk about Perrin and Marcus Rutherford. You can call in at 1-313-825-5968. That's 1-313-TALK-WATT, and we'll weave you into the conversation we're having here over the next half an hour as we talk about Perrin, and then we start talking about merging these two individuals together and what we are excited about seeing in the upcoming Wheel of Time on Amazon Prime TV series. So, and of course, if you just want to call in and tell my guests how wonderful they are, you can do that too. That's totally fine. If you don't like Perrin and you don't want to talk about Perrin or Marcus, but you just want to be like, hey, thanks for doing what you do, call us. So, and well, like I said, we'll bring you into the call here, and I'll let you know if we end up getting 5-6 callers or something in the queue. So I just saw our first person just called, so we'll bring them in here shortly. What else? I guess maybe let me ask this to chat right now. What is the one characteristic for chat that you believe that Wheel of Time on Amazon Prime, that Rafe and his team have to get this right? If you only had to distill it down to one characteristic that is going to carry through the show, and it will tell you whether or not this is Perrin, what is that characteristic? And let me ask you both that question. Let me start with you, LezbiNerdy. Are they going to get all the nuance here? The loyalty, the protectiveness, the trauma, the suspicion, this internalized conflict, not trusting his gut. They might be able to capture it all and give us all of the nuance of the character. But if they had to distill it down, I know one's not fair, but I want to put you on the spot. One to you that's important that they actually translate to the screen, what would it be?
I would say for me, the word I had in my head, I don't know if I can communicate it properly, is hesitancy. Like, he's very deliberate. He won't do anything just impulsively. Well, that's not true, actually. He will. But he takes a long time to come to a decision. And I would like to see that he is being very thoughtful all the time. Like, that's what, because I feel like that would make the moments where he's not being thoughtful explode. Like, he takes 20 minutes to make a decision here, and then here he just explodes into a ball of fury. I think that would be his
thoughtfulness. Yeah, that it's so hard because you say one, you're like,
yeah,
but
it's so
what
hard.
about?
It's so mean.
It is mean. It is mean. It is mean because what it's great is, though, I love to ask that, and I've started seeing some answers show up here in chat, and I'll bring up some of those as we go also, and as we bring our callers in here. But it really distills down to what you, as the reader, love the most or care the most about from a portrayal standpoint. So it's a difficult question, but it's a great one, at least for me. Corey, what would you know? You can't pick thoughtful, so that one's off the table.
Yeah.
You gotta pick another one. If you had to pick and it couldn't be thoughtful, what is it you want to see Rafe and his team translate to the TV series for Perrin?
I mean, I guess it would be. For me, it's hard because I agree with you.
I love it. You're like,
stop asking me first. I mean, or keep asking me first. That's
yeah. I mean, I really hope that they communicate, and I think it's a piggyback. I guess let's call it a piggyback.
Okay.
What you said.
Okay.
And that I hope that they do a good job of communicating his struggle, so that like he is deliberate. So there's that deliberate component, and if they get that right, then when he does explode, it's not just that he explodes and we get this like fearful explosion from this guy that's really this scary imposing presence. It's that he hates it, and he struggles between the hammer and the axe, and it's like that whole internal battle, right? Like the scene just came to my head where he fights the floating axe, right?
Yeah.
Like just that there's this war within himself, right? Of like, I have to be this guy, but I don't want to be this guy, but I have to be this guy. You know what I mean? And sometimes that guy comes out, and then it's that struggle of how do I reconcile this part of myself? And I hope that they get that. And I think it comes off the back of really doing a good job of that internal thoughtfulness and slow kind of methodical nuance that he has.
Okay, so sorry. Sometimes I see comments in chat, and I'm about to make some other comment because it's really thoughtful, and then I see DK Moon just said, "If Hopper's mouth is animated when he talks, I'm out." Yes, exactly.
Yeah, Jungle Book style.
Yeah. I don't want that. I don't want that at all.
We come, young bull.
No. DK Moon. Yeah, that'll be the next question, which is, what could they do that would just ruin Perrin for you. And I think having Hopper's mouth animate while he talks might be that for some people.
Yeah.
So no, but you
That
both
could do
picked really important ones to Perrin, which is he needs the thoughtfulness. You need to believe that. So the struggle is real, right? It's not just you had to make him mad enough and then this thing. No, it has to be that he's so deliberate and so thoughtful about how he treats other people and how he moves and how he makes decisions, that this actually is such a struggle because there's no thought almost to it, right? It's this thoughtlessness, it's this carelessness. He almost, that turns him into something that he doesn't believe inherently that he is. And it drives him. So that's where his anger comes from, is that he's being driven to do these things that he doesn't feel like he should be or can do. And so I like both of those. Those are great. Those two. Okay. Rafe and his team have to get those two right. Not just one. It has to be those two. I think that would be great. So let's bring our first caller into the show. Many of you know this person very well. Let's welcome Norm to the Dusty Wheel. Norm, how you doing tonight?
Norm.
What's up, man?
Great Fan Keeper, as always. I raise my glass to you, sir. And of course, Corey, what's up, bruh? You're awesome.
Cheers.
Hi, Jen. I raise my glass to you. And of course, everyone in chat, what's up? Where's the glass?
So what's up, Norm? What are you taking from our conversation about Perrin?
One thing that no one has mentioned yet is that there's a couple of things. Is that Perrin has this moral compass to him. He is that guy who of the three Superboys, he doesn't have an ego, and I mean that as in it's not about him, because it never really ever was about him, and because of that moral compass that he has, you can rely. He's the oak, Matt is the wisp and the willow, and goes off and does his thing. Rand is the dragon board, enough said. So of course it's all about him, but Perrin is the oak. So he's going to be there for you, and he's going to be that guy for you. And he's also, one other thing that no one's mentioned is that he's the bridge. He can bridge relationships and bridge gaps. I mean, when he was going after Fael, what Corey was saying, he made alliances with the Shan that just came out of nowhere, and the Shan respected and feared the man. I mean, that just came natural. Like, they just looked at him and said, "Oh snap, okay, you're a badass," and and he didn't take it as, "Oh yeah, I'm the man." No, it was just him naturally, as he was as a leader. So I would like to see Marcus pull that particular trait of Perrin off. I mean, as well as the ferocity of the wolf and the badassness that is being Taverin and stuff. And of course, and for you, Matt, the whole Tel'aran'rhiod, getting that right, so that when he's in the wolf dream, he is that different person. He is the wolf, and almost getting lost in that. I would love to see that. So
yeah, that's a great one. Now, before we let you go, I want to ask you though, what do you not want them to get wrong that would kind of affect your enjoyment of the show? As far as, like DK Moon just said, if Hopper's mouth moved while I was talking to Perrin, is there something that they could do to translate Perrin and the Wolves that would just drive you batty?
If they did make it like a whole, Golem, Lord of the Rings thing, that would kind of kill it for me. But I just cannot wait to see my favorite chapter, which is the only chapter I have memorized, which is chapter 40, a making in the Towers of Midnight. I just want to see that scene of him forging Ma'alenir. I just cannot wait for that. Granted, I know it's not going to be for like season 8, but I got to see him just pounding away, making that hammer and just hefting this 4-foot monstrosity of pure unadulterated steel and just knocking some fools' heads with it. I mean, that's just going to be awesome. So I just can't wait for that. So
yeah, let us hope that we get there. That's for sure. Yeah, I agree with that a lot. So thank you very much, Norm. Always appreciate you calling in, man. Thanks for always leading the way, being the first, and getting other fans to just feel comfortable. Call us, tell us what you think about Perrin and Marcus's work. So, Lancer, have a good evening, and we'll see you back in chat.
you guys are awesome. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
See ya.
I love that Brando in chat just said, what could they do wrong? They could make bears wolves. Oh, sorry, wolves bears. There we go.
Wolves bears, yeah.
That is true. That would have been tough to handle. That would have been. I'm not sure. I just imagine like every content creator and that video that they made after that on YouTube, like all about the wolves that became bears, and just being like, oh no.
I will say, I actually think that my theory on that is we actually misinterpreted what they said. They didn't say talking to bears. They said talking to a bear, meaning I think that the thought was that he had like mental connections with predators, just in general. So it was
like,
mostly
yeah,
wolves, but there was like a bear happened to be one time.
So he could talk to other animals. Okay, that would not have been nearly as bad. But I just didn't want him to like.
No, I don't want it either.
Call the birds down, you know.
I don't want it either.
I don't need the little snail to say something to him or something.
He's the brother.
Oh, Perrin as Snow White. That does. Did we have a loony theory about that? I feel like we did something like that. So, okay, let's bring in our next caller to the show. Nick has something to say to us. Hey, Nick, welcome to the Dusty Wheel. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, guys. Thank you so much for all the great content.
Absolutely. I love these series. These are always fun, and talking about the actors and then talk about the characters themselves. So what's your comment or question about Perrin or Marcus or both?
It's basically about Perrin. I haven't done a lot of research on Marcus. I'm kind of trying to stay out of that just so I can enjoy the show regardless of how my headcanon would be affected.
Sure. I get that. So what's your thought or question about Perrin?
Well, kind of piggybacking on what the previous guy, Norm, I think, said, Perrin's always been like, he's like the unbendable oak. He's like sturdy, strong, reliable. And then you turn around and you consider that he doesn't really have, he's a wolf brother, but, it's not until way late in the book, he slow plays us with all of what he's capable of doing for the end of the story. And the other thing was somebody had brought up something about, why he wouldn't grasp the wolves. And I just fully believe that, in the two rivers, the wolves were killing livestock and wolves were bad in that area. So I just think that, in a small town situation where that's all he's ever experienced, just my take.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, that's a good point. We do get slow played there a bit by Jordan, right? There's almost this, just like we see in the books, this kind of slow explosion of, whatever happens to his character. And that does happen, clearly. We have to wait a while to get to it. I don't know that anyone ever asked Jordan, he talked about knowing the end from the beginning, but I don't think anyone ever asked him specific to Perrin's story arc, if that's always what he had intended from the very beginning, or if it was something that built. I wish now we would have. I always think of the questions afterwards, of course. I always think, oh, shoot, that would have been a fantastic one. So specific to this discussion of Perrin, is there that attribute as far as Rafe and his team, when they translate this to a TV series, what specific attribute of that for Perrin then is it for you that you want them to get right then? That'll really make it Perrin for you when you see him on screen.
I need him to be the Boy Scout. I need him to be the reliable guy that, you can count on, that the way that everybody leans on him throughout the whole series.
Yeah, I like that. To be the Boy Scout. This definitely goes along with what Norm said. Yeah. Great comment. Thank you very much, Nick, for calling in. Really appreciate your sharing that with us. And for giving us that thought about the Boy Scout. I think, I don't know why I don't think of Perrin that way, but absolutely fits. That's absolutely who Perrin is. So, hey, thank you very much, Nick. Have a good evening. Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah. You guys too. Appreciate the content. Thanks.
Yeah. Appreciate that. Bye-bye. So yeah, about that, both Norm and Nick both brought this up. This idea of a moral compass, lack of ego, kind of Boy Scouty. What are your thoughts here, Corey? Do you like? I mean, that the thoughtful struggle when he is the moral compass, or he. Maybe everyone doesn't agree that he is their moral compass, but he is a moral compass in the books.
Yeah.
Do you feel that? Is that something that'll tell you that's Perrin if Rafe gets that right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would. I never really thought of it as a moral compass. I always thought he was more grounded than the other two guys. I guess that could be worded as a moral compass, like, and he kind of becomes who he is to the Two Rivers, maybe because of that. Like, he was kind of reluctant, right? He didn't really want to be this Lord leader guy, but he is that kind of reliable young man, right? Like, he's got a real job, he's like a friend. I had this friend in high school who was like, we'd all be going out somewhere to go driving or, for a drive or whatever. And we're like, hey, John, come with us. He's like, no, I got to go work. And he's like, he's 16, he's going to his job at Dairy Queen. The next time we asked him, no, I'm going over here to mow these lawns. Like, he was always just this very responsible, guy who kind of at a young age sort of was already coming into the idea that these are my responsibilities, right? Like, I got to take care of these things. And I kind of picture him that way more than the other two boys, in terms of that sort of triad of those three guys. So maybe that's. Yeah, I like that. I like,
framing it that way, I think fits. The responsibility, I think, the moral compass, I think, to me, assumes like that you're taking some things seriously. Like, you recognize your impact, you're aware of it. You actually you're making an active choice to be a certain way in order to, in this case, for example, not want to hurt people, right? He always talks about how he's pretty careful to not use his size to ever, there's some compass there that he has that certainly I think Matt and Rand are kind of like, I'm just an open book and a white slate, and things are going to happen to me. And Perrin seems to kind of already have chosen a way to be a bit more. So I guess I can really see it in that sense. LezbiNerdy, any thoughts on this before we jump into this connecting Marcus with Perrin conversation?
First of all, Cub Scout. I just saw that in the chat.
Yes.
That was very
Cub
good.
Scout.
Yeah. That works.
Secondly, I think that saying that he has a moral compass is very true. I would push back on calling him the most reliable, because I don't think he necessarily is. Like, he's the one that Moraine thinks in the Dragon Reborn, I don't need to watch him. He's fine. Or in Shadow Rising, I think. And he runs off. He's the one who leaves the group. And, Rand asks him to bring back Masema, and he never does. If that had been Matt would have tied Masema, put him in a sack like a badger, and dragged him over. Like, Matt, if you ask Matt to do something and he says he's going to do it, he 100% does it. Whereas Perrin is internally motivated, where he had
interesting.
He, even if he promised you, he will go inside his own thing and make his own decision based on his own moral compass, which I think is it's very different. It's a different kind of reliable, but if I had to ask somebody to do something, I would ask Matt before I would ask Perrin, because Perrin might, in the middle of doing it, realize that he thinks that this is not the right thing to do and do something else.
So I'm not saying you'd go to him necessarily to get the job done that you want to get done.
Exactly.
But if he believed in it, I think you could trust him.
Anyways, that's fascinating to me. So I'm wondering, I kind of feel like maybe we're getting, there's growth stages, right? I agree with you if we're talking about like post Fires of Heaven Matt, but pre Fires of Heaven Matt, I don't know. He's kind of all over the place.
He is kind of all over the place, but I don't think I ever remember him breaking his word.
I don't know. Well, he took a dagger.
But he logic that in his mind. I didn't. No, she said these exact words. But okay.
I love this. By the way, we have three callers, and it'll be the last three callers tonight. I want us to now kind of turn a little bit towards this idea of Marcus and Perrin, and where do we see Marcus's talents as an actor converging with the characteristics we just talked about that are important for Rafe and his team to bring across. So let's bring in our next caller to the show. Let's welcome Bain and Chiad to the Dusty Wheel. How you doing tonight?
I see you, Innkeeper.
I see you too.
And I see you, I see you, Jenny and Corey. Jenny, I just want to say I'm a huge fan. I love your channel. I love everything you have to say about Wheel of Time. But I'm here to, you're welcome. I'm here to talk about Perrin's relationship with Gaul. Now, granted, I am biased in this department, but I just a little bit.
I just realized the connection between your name. Oh my God, and Gaul. Yes. All right.
But Gaul is definitely one of my favorite characters for sure. And for the show, I want Perrin and Gaul to be the bromance of the century. I want people to ship them. I want them to be adorable together. I want them to be a great example of a sensitive male friendship, with trust and hugs that, aren't homophobic. I really want it to be a beautiful thing. That's what I'm really excited about. And I was just curious if you saw anything in your viewings of Marcus that made you think he would be able to create this kind of relationship with another male actor.
Yeah, that's a great question, and thank you for calling in. And congratulations today about naming.
Yeah, that was
thank
awesome.
you.
Naming
Thank you.
Wadam Prime Twitter handler, he who
Yes.
tweets with the Dawn. That's fantastic. So
He who tweets with the Dons. Really exciting.
It's so exciting. It's so exciting. It's a great day to call in for sure. So yeah, to this question, Corey, do you remember seeing anything in any of the shows where you thought like, yeah, this kind of, male bonding, he did really well from a friendship standpoint, and you could see him kind of carrying that in the show?
I mean, I'm thinking about his performance in Obey, and he definitely has some friends in that show that he interacts with. It's a bit more, there's a lot of tension there. It's not really, there's a little bit toward, there are moments where you see a little bit of camaraderie between these guys, but they're kind of messed up. They're struggling, let's say. They're in a place where they're struggling. But I definitely could see that. I could see, at least for Marcus's part, I could see him carrying that kind of nuance. And like, I love how you put it, and I'm totally down for that. Like having a very deep connection between those two characters that's meaningful, and that would be fantastic. I think it kind of depends who's cast opposite him in that respect.
Yeah, that's gonna be an interesting piece of that. Definitely, there's a vulnerability to Marcus's performances that I feel like makes that like an easy in if they do the other actor kind of is capable of taking advantage of that aspect of Marcus's talent as an actor, because I think you have to have that, right? Just as a person, regardless from a vulnerability standpoint, that's what you have to have that kind of deep bond of friendship and love for another person. So yeah, I can see it in that way. LezbiNerdy, any thoughts here?
Yeah, as Corey said, there aren't really performances where he has like close friendships in the ones that we watched. Obey is the only one, and as you said, those are they're not the most healthy relationships. Right. It's not the best situation. Based on what we see of Marcus's acting, I don't think there's any shortcomings there where he would have difficulty portraying that. The vulnerability you mentioned, Matt, I think is key to that. And I think I really do like the Perrin and Gaul relationship, and I would like to see it played up. It's one of the things that I find it's not lacking, but I kind of miss that sort of, like, these characters must have friends, right? The female characters, they have a good friendship that grows between them, but the male characters tend to be kind of alone. And so it would be nice to see a good female friendship.
So I'm kind of curious then, Bain and Chiad, do you believe that the one Aiel that we will see in season 1 is Gaul? Do you think there's a chance for that, or is that too much hope to give you?
I in my heart of hearts, I would love to see that. I did think of Gaul initially because I thought it would be a good way to introduce Perrin's beef with the White Cloaks from an early moment in the show, to have him save Gaul earlier on. Plus, I just think that's such an amazing scene with the two of them.
Yeah.
But really, I actually, my vote on that is probably for Tigraine. Although that's not really that shocking. So maybe there's hope for Gaul.
There's hope for both. Yeah, potentially. Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much for calling in. And once again, thank you for naming our friend over on Watt on Prime. It's wonderful that they now have a name among Twitter of Time. That's fantastic. So
of course. It's exciting.
Yeah, it's so exciting. Hey, thank you so much. It's awesome to hear from you, and great question. And we'll talk to you here soon. Have a good one, okay?
Okay, thanks. Good night, everybody.
Yeah.
All right, bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye.
I love that we're building show ships before the show starts.
Exactly.
Golf ship.
Well, that's funny. That one is definitely a book one, right? Like
that's true, that's true.
just one we want to see transcend the show really well, right? So I like that idea of that being, for Bain and Chiad, that being the one thing, like, Rafe better to get this right. You know, it's like,
it's interesting.
That relationship, his ability to have that relationship, which is such a great one in the actual books themselves, transcending and making sure that shows up in the TV series makes a lot of sense. Let's bring in our... Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Corey.
No, I was just going to say that, like, it would just do wonders for the later episodes and like the later seasons, right? Yeah. When you're starting to get that payoff of those two characters and what they go through.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Let's bring in our second to last caller to the show. Hey, welcome to the Dusty Wheel. How you doing tonight? Hello? Oh. I don't know if you're muted, so we can't hear you if you're saying something. Well, we'll return you. We'll put you back in the queue, and we'll bring our next caller into the show. Let's bring Art into the show. Art, welcome to the Dusty Wheel. How you doing?
Hey guys, how are you doing?
Fantastic.
Oh, good.
Awesome to hear from you. So, what's going on? What's you're calling about Marcus, Perrin? What are your thoughts?
Oh my gosh, I had to call in because Perrin is indeed probably my favorite character. Much because of the fact that when I first started reading Wheel Time, I'm a very strange person. I just opened The Shadow Rising to a random chapter, and it was the Perrin chapter where he and File and Gaul and Bain and Chiad and Loyal were in the ways.
Oh,
Nice.
And that was a very interesting introduction to the series.
Yeah.
So just a commentary. I know Jenny has a lot of thoughts on that.
I do. I'm not even going to get into them right now.
That's hilarious.
So I had kind of a commentary and a question, but first of all, I wanted to go back to Jenny's point where and Bain and Chiad, we came to we syncopated with the whole queer coding and the LGBTQ subject matters regarding Perrin and maybe coinciding with the wolves, him accepting being a wolf brother. So I have a take on him where it's I don't think Robert Jordan was necessarily doing that. He wasn't trying to
sure
give us this but it definitely reads. So as a gay man myself, who was in the closet for quite a while, that kind of drew me in, his reluctance to accept something that was not his choice, right? More so than being Tavaran and Rand being the Dragon Reborn or Matt being, I don't know, whatever Matt is, Lucky. Perrin really is at odds with this thing. It seems more natural. It seems more animalistic. Even I don't know if I want to coincide being gay as being being like a wolf or an animal or anything. Nothing like that. But the way Marcus is in Obey in particular, it's just perfect. I was at odds with him a little bit because of his physical size. I thought he should be bigger when I saw him in the casting. But I watched Obey and I was just struck. It was this is just dead. This is borderline on the nose, Perrin.
Yeah, kind of.
And I thought his physicality was there. Just needed to bulk up a little bit, and I just thought he was quite striking. And and as you guys pointed out, he's very tall.
Oh yeah.
Like taller than Yosha tall. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he's very tall. Yeah.
Well, and once you put him on, the thing is when you put those people on camera, right? Like I think the average actor is like shorter than the average height in like regular. What am I trying to say?
Sure.
Yeah.
General sort of like population, right? So if you put him in a room full of actors, I think he's going to even appear that much taller just because of the.
I started noticing in every one of the things I watched, he can't leave a room without ducking. Like he has to duck going through every single time he left. Every doorway is not tall enough for him.
Yeah, and there's something about that I wonder if they'll capture in the show, which is that ducking tendency, that kind of leaning down into the conversations, and kind of standing behind people because he doesn't want to stand in front of them, to block them.
The world isn't big enough for him.
Yeah. That I agree with that same idea from Obey. I think Obey was. I watched that first. And I just kept on having like, this is Perrin. There's so many things here, just everything. And I think that size and his reach as far as his internal dialogue that you can see in his head without doing much. I was like, okay, those two pieces that can be Perrin, and put him in some situations in the show, and I'll absolutely believe it.
So I kind of had this odd thought pop in my head regarding his height. Are we going to use that in the show? Not only to show like Perrin's kind of like physical reluctance to be like sticking out like a sore thumb or whatever, as kind of like a bit of a red herring to like put people on like maybe he's the Dragon Reborn because he's an ailment type. And it's different from the text, but I don't know if it's useful or not, or Moraine would be taking a look at someone like Perrin because of maybe this aspect about his physicality.
Yeah, it definitely could be. It wouldn't surprise me if they would want to. Again, the books are from Rand's point of view, right? And pulling the audience back away from that and have this really be an unknown aspect. And it wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, I really think until he. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Jenny.
Go ahead.
I really think until Rand in the show he's the Dragon Reborn, they're going to play that to the audience and keep that mystery open. I really think they will.
That's literally exactly what I was going to say. So
yeah, for sure. Okay, Art, you got to tell me before we let you go, Art. What could they get wrong about Perrin and the wolves, if you will, or just Perrin, that would just, I don't know, ruin is the wrong word, but just bum you out that they do with Perrin or Marcus?
Well, I mean, Marcus is the answer, really, because he's, as I think we've all pointed out, he's very good at nonverbal and emotive communication without going into like a Shakespearean expository soliloquy or whatever. You can just do a lot with like two glances and the duck of his head. But what could be like a Bain for no pun intended, Bain and Chiad. What could be a Bain for his character is all the internalism of being a wolf brother, and especially his power of scent, right? He reads people by their scent. So how are you going to portray that in the show? It could be a make or break for him, or not, because Marcus is very talented.
Yeah. That's a good question. Yeah, that's a good point too. Hey, Art, thank you so much for calling in. As always, I love hearing your opinion.
Oh, no problem.
And hopefully we'll see you here at the after show over in Discord. We'll see you after the show.
I'm actually supposed to be at work, so.
Oh, shoot. Okay, maybe not.
Well, yeah. Thanks for spending some time with us.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, thanks for
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
It is quite an interesting question for Rafe and his team, because these characters, especially some of the main characters, do have pretty vital changes that happen, right? This whole convergence with, I want to say, Matt and Perrin certainly go through earlier changes and bigger ones than not that Rand doesn't. I feel like his comes a little bit later, but they're all very much in the first book. There's so many things that happen to them, so their need to be able to kind of carry that is going to come up in season 1, Whereas I think some of the other characters, you have more evolution as the seasons get going as individuals. So yeah, I think all three of them have probably the hardest. It's going to be the hardest for them this first season because they really have to carry those changes really well for us to believe that they've embodied those characters. I don't know. That's my read on it, at least. Okay, so we have one last call. Let's try to bring this caller in. Then we'll talk. We'll tie these and I want to get your final thoughts on what you think is going to actually be done well between these two characters. Perrin and Marcus. But let's see if our final caller is there for us. Hey, welcome to the Dusty Wheel. How you doing tonight?
Hi, are you able to hear me now?
Yes, we can. Yes. We can hear you. Excellent. Yes. So who is this? What was your name?
Hi, my name is Dajeep. I'm joining in from India.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe that's the reason I'm not able to connect properly.
It worked though. We got you. That's fantastic.
Salutations to the innkeeper and...
Thank you so much. You too.
Did we lose
Hey, and just wanted to say, while we have Corey on the line, a big fan of your art. Follow you on Instagram and, regularly share your art. One of the best Wheel of Time artists that we have on Instagram these days. Really love your take on all the characters. So thank you for sharing your art with us.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for that. That means a lot. I really appreciate that.
Well, this is fantastic. I think you're our first caller ever from India. What was your comment? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I think there's a big...
Yeah, and just I would quickly, just because we have Jenny on the line, a recent subscriber to her channel, and one of the first things that I noticed that she, on her cover, I think it's called a cover page, she has those pictures of the French covers of the books. And just wanted to point it out how super gorgeous those covers are. I want to buy, even though I don't read French. Sometime in the future, I would want to buy all of these books with these covers.
Nice.
They need to make posters for English speakers or something because they're gorgeous.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
So what coming back to the topic at hand, like most people, Perrin is one of my favorite characters maybe after say Landman Dragon, he's probably my second favorite character. And the callers already and your panelists, they've all discussed, all kinds of, great things that Perrin has done in the books and how difficult it will be for Marcus to play that role because there are so many layers to his character. For me, some of the most important things that I would like to see portrayed properly on the show is one of them is his relationship with the wolves, which I believe is one of his most, defining characteristic in the book, him being a wolf brother, him sort of throughout halfway of the book, fighting his inner wolf, not letting come it out, and trying to fight with the other side of his characteristic. So how they portray that properly, whether they do it in a cheesy or whether they're able to do it convincingly, that would be make or break situation for me. And then, and sorry, I'm rambling because I'm not sure how much you're able to hear me saying things. But I would, also sort of maybe have them focus on his sort of conflict with Slayer, because that was quite interesting part of the books for me. And I would really want that to be done well.
Yeah, no, we heard everything. That was great comments. We really haven't talked about that much tonight, which is them getting the relationship with the wolves right, and like you said, not having it be cheesy. That's I'll be honest. We've seen so many movies about humans that communicate with animals. I think it's going to be a huge challenge for it to come off well, and for Marcus to act that pretty, to convincingly. So yeah, that's a great point. What do you think would be cheesy for you? If Rafe, what decision would be just the wrong decision when it comes to how Perrin communicates with wolves for the show?
It's more of something. It's not that I have something in mind that will be cheesy, but something when I look at it and it won't seem authentic relationship because wolves he is a wolf brother. Like wolves are like his family, and they respect him, they adore him, So I somehow, I mean, I'm not saying they won't be able to, but I somehow want that to be done perfectly so that we get, because that is a big part of Perrin's story. And I've seen in the previous video that you've done that they are training sort of a pack of wolves, and they've been doing it for 6 months or so. So I'm confident they are putting in effort to get that right. But it's just when animals are involved, things might go wrong. There are a number of ways that it might not seem authentic, or it might seem just like a token wolf running here and there. And so I mean, again, this is a new territory, I believe, where wolves will be that or an animal. I mean, we have seen some of it in Game of Thrones. And I think they did an okay job of it. I want Wheel of Time to do sort of a better job than that.
Yeah, no, great thoughts. Yeah, I agree. I'm really hopeful. Like you said, we're going to get whatever we get, right?
And if I could add one more thing.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, and if I could add one more thing, there's this running theme, and this is for all three boys, our main characters. Where for example, Perrin always thinks that it's Rand who's a ladies' man, and Matt would always think Perrin is a ladies' man, and they would all sort of think the other person is. I want some. I mean, at least in some parts, maybe only in the initial season where things do not get very serious yet. I mean, I want this to be sort of a thing, at least in the beginning when they are in the village and haven't set out in the world to fight big bad baddies. So because that was very funny for me all the time, because they sort of all are ladies' men in some shape or form, but they keep thinking that they are, they suck at talking to ladies and whatnot. And that was very funny for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's no one had mentioned that one. So yeah.
I blame Will Alcine. Will Alcine gave all the Two Rivers boys a complex.
Well, thank you so much for hanging in there and not hanging up. When I'm so glad that you called us. Like I said, you're our first caller from India. I hope you will not, definitely give us a call again. Please do. And I'm glad it works.
Hey, definitely. Yeah. Love the show. And yeah. I mean, you're doing a great job. And I keep pointing out. So maybe this is another thing. I've seen a lot of streamers do this. When you're sort of addressing the audience or your viewership, just tell them to like the stream more. So that, the algorithm, it pushes out to more people, non-viewers, it shows up in their feed. Because 200 odd people watching this is really, really not enough number for an awesome streams or the kind of streams that you regularly put out. So, I mean, so many people could benefit from watching these streams when it shows up on their homepage.
I appreciate that. And so every 5 minutes, I'll just play a recording of myself, like this now. I'm just going to be like, Taylor, play that again.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you so much. You're very kind. What you just said about all of us.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
I really appreciate that. Have a good one. What time is it for you right now? What time is it? What time of the day is it?
It's almost 9:15, and I'm starting my class soon. So I just wanted to, before the class starts, I just wanted to get in a word there.
Well, have a good day. Okay.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Thank you. Thank you again.
So much.
Yep. Bye bye.
Yeah.
Appreciate
all
it.
of you. Thank you. Thanks for bringing me.
Thank you.
Bye.
Well, you heard our caller. Like the video already.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on, do it.
The like button, smash it.
Yeah, smash that
like
button. I always forget. Subscribe for
exactly.
Manfear. It's so funny because when he brought up, I get to 40 minutes in a show and I'm like, oh yeah, like the show, like the thing. That'd be great. No, I appreciate that. It was really nice that he knew who all of you were also and had something, he's been sharing and following us. Really appreciate that to all the fans that have been following all of our channels. And like I said, you calling in, being in chat, and sharing, obviously Corey's work on Instagram and watching and commenting on LezbiNerdy's videos. It makes a difference, honestly, as content creators. You get up and you're like, you know what? I want to do this again. This is a lot of fun. So we really appreciate it. Please do like and subscribe to all of these fine folks here with me. And with that being said, that was our last caller. I know we're running a little bit longer than we normally do, but I do want to ask this and leave these as final comments here. And we'll start with you, Corey. What do you think it just makes obvious, from a talent standpoint to Marcus to Perrin, what are your top 3 here that you think he does well, that it's going to just transcend so well with that character?
He's got the physicality already. Like people are worried about his stature, but I have no worries there. So that's like, for me, number 1. Number 2 is, I think, his skill with kind of like those underlying, like you said earlier, Jenny, like just the little nuances in the micro movements in his face. You see this internal dialogue going on. I think that's going to come across really, really well for the character. And then in Obey and A Stitch in Time, there's these little moments of sort of this scary guy that I think is really gonna, that sort of unbridled passion and anger and stuff that will come out of him will really be very a very kinetic sort of experience on the screen. I'm really anxious. I'm excited to see it. He is like, Perrin is probably my favorite character in the books. He's become, Marcus is my favorite character to draw as Perrin. I just love his, like you said, he's got such a great look. His face is just so interesting, and he's very, very enjoyable to paint. So I don't know. That's good for me.
I feel like I should have been like, not 3, 2. You took you took some great ones.
I took a bunch there. Sorry.
No. I just realized that I said 3, and I was like, oh yeah, those are fantastic ones. So I put you at this is harder for you, LezbiNerdy. What are some other ones that you think that Marcus, other than those, that really fit really well? Other than those. I know. Now it's harder.
Well, sort of, okay, using your term, Corey, piggybacking on what you said, one of the things that you see in Obey is he's like a dam ready to burst, at times, and I think that is a lot of also present in Perrin, and he's communicating through that. I'm cheating now because I'm repeating him, but cheating, like, he's communicating that, like, I'm about to explode thing through his face is so expressive. Just watch Obey, watch it. Yeah. He's got such ability to control what's happening. It's on his face. It's incredible. Yeah. The other thing, it's cheating because I'm copying.
So
I know I gave too many.
Jenny, talk about. Here's what we can do. Talk about the scene where he protects his mom and that relationship. Like, I think there's something in that scene that relates to like the 2 rivers and stuff. Like, talk about that.
Well, in that moment, first of all, he's not as big he's a thin guy, but he's tall, right? So he doesn't have the presence that he will have in the show, where you see that he's beefed himself up, but he's a scary guy in that moment. He's menacing, but he, at the same time as being a protector, there's a vulnerability to him. Like, it's hurting him. It's sorry. I'm having the tinker thing like going on in my head. Like, when you do violence, it hurts you just as much. That you see it, like, as he's doing it, as he's hurting someone, it is hurting him just as much. And his mom he's protecting his mom, and his mom has to come in and protect him from himself, from what he's doing. And it's a good movie. It's a really good movie. It is,
and it's on the backdrop of the 2011 London riots, I think, and it's just interesting because I thought that it was gonna be a lot about that instead of really about this character. And
it was a deep character study.
It was something that surprised me, and it's really engrossing. I want to say that one of the things that came out from his performances to me was he sits really well in the quiet, and that is something I think Perrin has to do. There's a tension and a comfort in that space for him, and he does that well. From an acting standpoint, he delivers that well. And so when I saw that, like, when there's times where he was just sitting there laying on his bed, and you could just see the thoughts of this really almost, it's quiet and he's still, but there's just this underlying something going on there, and it's still it has that slow thought thing building. But it's something I never gave Perrin credit for. And this sounds kind of weird, but seeing Marcus portray his character in that way, I could see Perrin differently, which was not that it's too slow. he's slow of thought because you're seeing it from the outside. But I imagine there's just so much going on but it's because he's so quiet and still that you think that it's slow. And so anyways, I don't know if that makes sense, but there was, I saw Perrin a little bit differently in my mind, and I hope that transcends to the show. Now, before I end this off, then I want to ask you three, you two, are there any concerns? Now I'll start with you, LezbiNerdy, on this one. Any concerns of like things you didn't see in any of the stuff we watched where you're like, I don't know, this might be a challenge for him in the TV show?
Well, I don't actually have concerns. Like, he has a lot of ability. When you were saying sitting in the quiet, I was thinking like a lesser actor in those moments would be trying to do something. Like, oh, I'm sitting here in this moment, I have to show that I'm thinking through my gestures or something. But he just lets it sit because he trusts his ability as an actor. I'm assuming. I don't know him. I don't know if that's true. But that's what he trusts that he is able to communicate it without having to do it overtly. And because of that confidence in his acting ability, I don't have concerns. I know things that we didn't see as much is humor. And that's just because of the roles that he's had, right? Like, Perrin occasionally is pretty funny. One of the funniest moments in the series, in my opinion, and whatever, is that whole moment of, see that horse? That horse is named Mandar. Like, that's Perrin just burned Fail like really good in that moment. It's hilarious. It's funny. We don't get to see that in the roles that he's played. I don't know if that's a weakness in his ability or not, or if it's just, that's just not, he just hasn't gotten that role yet.
Yeah, that's a good one to bring up. We don't know. That is kind of one of those outstanding questions. How much humor they will give to him and how he's able to pull that off. I almost saw that almost in his personal interviews, if that makes sense, outside of the acting. And I know that doesn't necessarily automatically transcend just because you might be good at being normally humorous. Doesn't mean that's going to necessarily be in the moment from an acting standpoint, but I did see some of that in those. Any concerns for you, Corey? Humor is an interesting one, I think, to bring up. Any other concerns of something we either didn't see or something you didn't think he pulled off in a way you hope to see for Perrin?
No, I mean, I just talking about that a little bit. I think the roles that he was in and that we saw him in, there wasn't a lot of humor in the characters. So he didn't have a chance to do that. Gosh, no, not really. I mean, I don't know. I'm not overly concerned, to be honest. I feel quite confident that he's going to do a really good job with the character. I think he's really going to carry it well. And we know that this is going to be different than the books. The show is going to be different. There's going to be stuff that's changed and different. So I feel like I've always maintained right from day one, the first time I painted him and people were very concerned about his appearance and even his ethnicity and stuff on social media and all that stuff. I was like, I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about the performance capacity of the people that they have cast, and watching the stuff that he's done, I have no fears about his capacity. And I think he's going to carry it really well, really, really well. So I'm really hopeful in that respect for this character. So
the concern I have is not about him. It's about how, I saw it in the chat as well. It's just, how are they going to do the communication with the wolves?
Yeah,
that is,
sure.
I have no answers, no question. Like, I don't know what I want or anything. I just, it's such a,
that's fair.
It's such a nebulous concept. I don't know how
I think those are two kind of really open questions, which, regardless of how well he acts, that is always a difficult thing for.
That's a wild card. That's a wild card. That's like putting a Pokemon in a TV show and hoping it goes well, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, even Ryan Reynolds struggled, with that.
Yeah, exactly.
So, okay, well, I'm kind of curious for those of you that watch this after this live stream, or those of you that are here with chat or still with us, after this show is done, after the live stream is over, please do leave us a comment with your thoughts on what you think are Marcus's strengths. What do you think is going to really transcend into the character well? And what are your concerns as far as his ability to embody Perrin? I think this conversation will keep on going. And even once we see them, right, in season 1, it'll be that question of what will we see? How will they evolve as actors in these characters as the seasons go? And we hope, right, we get a season 2 and a season 3, and we'll continue to have this kind of conversation. Yeah, season 11. Yeah. So I thank you both for being here. It's awesome to have you again, to have become friends over just this shared passion and love for the Wheel of Time. And so I love having you both here at the end. And thank you all that are in chat and who called, even from India. That was so cool.
That's crazy.
That was awesome.
That's incredible.
Oh man, gee, that's so great. That's the fun of what we do. Of course, yes, please do like the video. Please do subscribe. But we're going to be here at the Dusty Wheel regardless, doing this every week, sometimes twice weekly, like this upcoming Sunday. So make sure to be back here this upcoming Sunday for our Wheel of Time on Amazon Prime debate. They're a lot of fun. It'll be a Sunday afternoon, so our international viewers have hopefully a little bit easier time than these late evenings that we do here at the Dusty Wheel. And please do go check out all the links in the description. Go follow my friends here, obviously on YouTube and on Instagram. And you can catch us for an after show. We keep the conversation going here on Wednesday nights, always after a show, over on Discord. You'll find the link. Just scroll down the description. You can find that. Go join us over there. We jump into voice chat, and we just have a fun time for the next hour or two talking. Sometimes, I guess, for 3 or 4 hours. Kind of depends on how long everyone stays at the end. So please do show up there. And then, like I said, you'll hear the announcement on Sunday. We will be announcing on Twitch on Monday, doing another test of our watch parties. And we will announce our first official watch party that will be coming up March 7th. March 7th. Just mark that date. We'll be on Twitch. Go follow us over there. The watch party is going to be a lot of fun. Again, it's watching the previous works of the cast and crew together and talking about them as we do that. As some people have called it a rewatch party. Yes. If it disturbs you, this idea of us talking over the movie for the first time, go watch it first and then come watch it with us. But I'll announce on Monday what show that will be and who will be joining us. So that's going to be a lot of fun over on Twitch. But we'll be back here again the following Wednesday with our finals of the song parody contest next Wednesday. I can't wait to do this. We got over 40 submissions.
That's crazy.
It's insane. You guys are so amazing. Over 40 submissions to the Wheel of Time song parody contest. And next Wednesday will be the finals. And we need you there to vote the winner. We have some fun prizes for the winners of that event. So I think that's everything. Meet us on, like I said, Discord afterwards. Thank you both. And as we like to say around here at the Dusty Wheel, good evening and good night from the Dusty Wheel, and smash to black.
Welcome to the Dusty Wheel.
Hey, welcome back to the Dusty Wheel. You went right to kill it. Look at you. You're all ready. You're just done. I mean, this is like this is
really well. And now I'm like, great, my turn.
And if you don't like that, and you want to say, well, Robert Jordan could have made the two rivers all white. He could have, but he didn't. So
Just complimented me on my dress, and as you can clearly see, I'm
sad.
not
I see Lukumi as something along the lines of a Shida Haran analog.
It does make sense why it outlasted the breaking.
Yeah.
See, this is why I have Therese in the show, because she's going to correct everything that.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Dusty Wheel Show. What? Meme Off Challenge.
Yay! Like baby face mounted on like a huge body. So like all of a sudden,
this is not just
like,
a traditional fantasy, right? There are sci-fi elements. And just a moment ago, Rafe tweeted something. So let me get my guest in here with me, and probably I would say put in 70-80% of the work. I got to be over the shoulder and be like, no,